The family next door to me is very, very sad. Through picture plays has got this face, the Charlie Chaplin man. The youngest son, he's forced for fun, the Charlie Chaplin pain, and wears a funny-looking bowler on his little brain. They're absolutely dotty, there's no doubt, and nicely when the family talks aloud. They all do the Charlie Chaplin walk. The Charlie Chaplin walk is all the talk. From London town to far New York, everybody's doing it. The girls go to see him every night.
Well, thankfully, those days are now over. The simulation team at the St. David's School of Nursing at Texas State University was able to make this goal a reality. By using existing simulation resources and implementing a relatively small technology upgrade, the lab staff were able to add a whole new dimension of realism to their scenarios. One of the best parts about this solution is the cost. The price to do this upgrade is very reasonable as compared with purchasing all new simulation equipment. In our case, we already had existing bedside monitors, so the only new item that had to be purchased were computers. We went with netbooks because of their small footprint. This allows us to keep them on our head wall shelves. Doing so keeps them accessible for when we need them, yet out of the way for when the students are working with the mannequins. But keep in mind you can do this entire upgrade for little or even no cost if you have additional computers and monitors available. Okay, let's move on and talk about how we actually do it. So here's what you'll need to pull it off. A spare computer, an external monitor, and a copy of the Laerdal SimMan and AVS client software, both of which can be downloaded from the Laerdal website. Please note, an actual physical AVS system is not required to make this work. Okay, we're now inside of the SimMan software program that we previously downloaded from the Laerdal website. For those of you that are already using SimMan or an AVS system, I'm sure you're very familiar with this screen. But if not, if you've never seen it, it can be a little bit intimidating. But rest assured, we're only going to be using a very small subset of the features for what we're trying to accomplish today. So the first thing I want to have you do is go up to the top here on our menu bar, click on the Edit button, and choose your video recording configuration. What we're going to be doing here is actually enabling our monitor output video stream, which is the file we want to record for our vital signs for later on. So since we're not actually doing live video, you can select the no camera option here on the top. Come down to the middle here where it says patient monitor recording, and make sure this checkbox is enabled because this is the data stream that we actually want to capture. You have a couple of quality options here, low, medium, and high. Medium is the default. I've tried both medium and high. I haven't noticed a huge difference in the quality of the file afterwards. If space is a concern, you can go with medium or low even, but if not, I'd stick with high to try to get the best resolution you can. Lastly, come down here to the source identification for your video client and take note of the monitor name. By default, this will be your computer's host name, and the AVS client software should recognize this by default if you're doing the recording on the same PC as you're running SimMan. But if not, just take note of this because you might have to put it in the software when you actually go to use it. Once you're all set here, go ahead and close out. Then we'll come over to our waveform portion of the software. By default, SimMan has a lot more waveforms when you first set it up, but for us here at the school we're at, we don't use many of those waveforms, so we only have the ones enabled that we actually want the students to be able to see. So here's where you're going to take your vital sign parameters that your faculty have given you for the scenario and go ahead and change them to whatever that needs to be. Just for fun, let's go ahead and bump up his heart rate a little bit. We'll raise his O2 up as well. And maybe bring down his respirations a bit. That looks pretty good. So now you're all set. You may have to do one more thing here on this screen, and that's the buttons here on the bottom. These are your waveform enable buttons. It's very important that you make sure these boxes are actually checked before you start trying to record with your AVS client, because if you don't, your vital sign parameters will actually be blank. You won't have any numbers there. So go ahead and just check those boxes. Once you see the check, you know it's enabled, and make sure you take your first blood pressure. Otherwise, you won't have any numbers for your blood pressure on your patient monitor. We're all set now, so let's go ahead and take a look at the AVS client and see what we need to do there. So we've now switched over to the AVS client software, and as you can see, we're capturing the patient monitor output from SimMan. Everything looks good. We also have the correct vital sign parameters that our faculty had asked for. Now, if you're not seeing any output here, what you want to do is check your configuration, which you can do by going to the settings options, then clicking on connection setup. Again, by default, if you're using the same PC to run your AVS client that you're using to run SimMan, your host name should populate by default under the available monitors section. And if it does so, then you're good to go. If not, you might have to find your IP address for your computer and put it in manually over here. But again, it should come up on its own. We don't really need to mess with any of the other options because we're not actually recording live video. We're just looking for the patient monitor output. So once you have that all set, go ahead and hit OK or Apply. And you should see what you have in front of you now. From here, all we have to do is actually start our recording, which is on the bottom of the screen here. Now personally, I only record about a minute or so of video most times, because once you put it inside of the Windows Media Player software, there's actually a loop button so you can have it going continuously. Now you're free to record it longer if you want to. Just remember, the longer you record it, the bigger your file size is. So if you want to keep your file sizes small, I suggest a minute or so and just loop it afterwards. We'll give it a couple more seconds here just to get some variation in our parameters. So once you're done recording, go ahead and hit your stop button. It'll prompt you to save the file. Just give it a name you'll remember. Hit your save button, and you're all set. Then we'll move on to the next portion. And last but not least, we have our final product, which are the video files themselves. To access these, simply browse to the folder where you saved them to from the previous step and double click on one of the files. Once you do so, it should automatically open up inside of Windows Media Player. If it doesn't go full screen, just double click anywhere on the screen and it should correct that for you. And the last thing we want to double check is down here on our bottom menu bar. This second button right here is your repeat option. What you want to do is click that and highlight it and make sure it's enabled. And this is going to allow the loop functionality we talked about earlier so that your video won't time out. So from here it will continue to run until you stop it or otherwise. If you have a couple of different vital signs you might want to use in your scenario, from here you can simply close out this file and open another one. And that's all there is to it. Here at Texas State University, we've been fortunate enough to be able to upgrade to the Laerdal SimPad system, which offers these same capabilities and much more. However, if your program is not quite there yet, or if you want to add vital signs to some of your static mannequins, which don't normally have this capability, this is a great option. Just a few things to keep in mind for your faculty. First and foremost, the video files that you create are going to be read-only, which means you won't actually have touchscreen capabilities. And secondly, you want to make sure you teach your faculty how to switch between video files so they can change vital signs on the fly during their scenarios. However, with the increased realism you can add to your program for a relatively minimal cost, the trade-offs are well worth it. Because in the end, what's more important for our patients than showing signs of life? Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Door to me, it's very, very sad. From picture plays has got this face, a Charlie Chaplin man. The youngest son, he's forced for fun, the Charlie Chaplin pain. And wears a funny looking boulder on his little brain. They're absolutely dotty, there's no doubt.